to everyone here. Obviously, there's been a lot of people here that don't really know you. You started coming to the church, what, about 2.5, maybe 3 years ago. What was it that brought you to New Life?
My son brought me up.
Okay.
Am I on, yeah?
Yes, you're on. You're okay.
I didn't want to live anymore.
Right.
My head was gone and I had nowhere to go. And my son said to me, do you fancy coming up to New Life? And I had nowhere else to go, so I came up.
Okay. And whenever you first came into the church, what did you think of the church, sitting in the service? What did you think?
Yeah, I thought they were good, honest people like myself, and I felt I fitted in after a couple of weeks, you know. So.
At what point then, I mean, that first day that you came in, did you get saved that first day, or was there a process over a few weeks?
Well, you see, I was saved 30 years ago and went my merry way shortly after it, you know, and I would say about 8 weeks.
Right, okay.
Of coming here, come back to the Lord again.
Yep, there's a process.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So let's go back, all right, you just mentioned there 30 years. Let's go back a while, growing up. Where was it that you grew up?
I grew up in the Castlereagh Hills, so I did.
Okay.
I was an only child.
Right.
Come from a working class. My father and my mother worked very hard, and they gave me what they could, and they done their best with what they had, you know.
Yep. So growing up as a child, just what you would call a pretty normal childhood, growing up. And then you would have left school, were getting a job. What were the things then in your kind of those days of adulthood, of young adulthood, what were the things that you were focused on in your life?
I love cycling. I raced push bikes, so that was my whole world, my whole life. Until suppose I started working, I found drink, and then everything started crumbling down around me.
Okay. What age, roughly, did the drink start? Did it start to take a hold of you?
Me. 18.
18?
Yeah.
Okay. So it started off pretty normal, like most people, where it's just out for a quick drink or whatever. No. You were just straight in?
Flat out.
Flat out?
Yeah.
Flat to the mat?
Flat to the mat.
From day one?
Yeah.
Okay. There was no breaking in?
No.
So it takes you 8 weeks to get saved in here? But going out on the drink, it's like day one?
Yeah.
Okay. So from 18, you're starting to hit alcohol pretty heavy. How did that affect your life?
How did that affect my life? See, I've been full of fear all my life, Johnny.
Okay.
And my emotions and all. I always used to go on my emotions and full of fear. And so when I took the booze, and all that fear, all the fear was lifted, and my emotions was different. So I acted out in how I felt.
Yeah.
So when I took the drink, I felt I grew a wee bit, and it made me comfortable, you know.
Right. Okay.
But it wasn't reality, really.
And how often would you have been out drinking?
Whenever I had money.
Okay.
Yeah.
So talking of money, did that have an effect or an impact on you? Was that something that you chased as well?
Yeah, flat out earning money too, flat out revenue.
Right. So everything around your life was about money, was about what you possessed, what you owned.
Yeah.
It was about alcohol, all of that lifestyle. So we're gonna talk about how that would have affected relationships. So you met a girl.
Met a whole lot of girls.
Met a lot of girls. Okay.
Have to tell the truth.
So was there one in particular that caught your attention?
There's a whole lot caught my attention, John. I don't know where to start. I got married when I was 21, and it was back in the day they called that the shotgun wedding. I got a girl pregnant, and
okay.
I got married. It was the right thing to do. And
what was her name?
Sandra.
Okay.
Yeah. It lasted less than a year because of my drinking and my behaviour. So
the alcohol, the pursuing of the money and all of this stuff, that all affected your relationships.
Yeah.
And already at the start there, at the age of 21, that's had an impact right there and then. So obviously then a divorce took place.
Divorce took place, yeah.
Okay. So you're going on, I'm assuming, let's talk about again, you're continuing on your line of alcohol, parties, out drinking, all of that there. And then you met Jennifer?
Jennifer, yeah.
Okay, so explain just what happened with Jennifer.
Say it again, sorry.
Explain what happened with Jennifer.
Oh, meeting her and stuff?
Yes, how you met her.
Yeah, well, I used to work in a wee Indian, doing the tour in a wee Indian, and she went to a nightclub, and would have met her there in 1988, 1989, and we just got together and got married, and
you had kids?
we had, yeah, son and a daughter, yeah.
Okay. Spencer's here tonight?
Spencer's here somewhere.
Yep.
He doesn't want me to mention his name. Where are you? Stand up.
Don't deflect the attention off yourself. So, obviously, you've been married once. Jennifer comes on the scene. But nothing has changed with regards to the alcohol, to that lifestyle. Did that have an impact on you as a person and on your relationship with Jennifer and on that marriage?
Yeah, well, I was trying to be good when I met Jennifer. I was trying to be good. Do you know what I mean? I was trying.
Was Jennifer a Christian?
No, she wasn't, no.
Okay. But she gets saved later on, isn't that right?
I get saved and then she gets saved, yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah. So I was always trying to be good and do the right thing, but I just couldn't manage my emotions, and it was always about me.
Right, okay.
At the end of the day.
Yep. So the marriage then begins to get a bit rocky?
That wasn't rocky, no. I went out one night and started taking drugs at 33 years of age, and then I just left home.
Right, okay. Looking back, I know this is difficult, but whenever you look back at moments like that, how does that make you feel?
Regret.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Regret.
And would you put it down to, let's say, for example, because we're talking about the alcohol, and alcohol has a big part to play here. If you were able to have controlled that back then, and that wasn't a part of your life, and God was more a part of your life back then, would that have made a difference, do you think?
Oh, it would be. It'd be the opposite of what it was, yeah.
Okay. So, the marriage with Jennifer ends in divorce.
Yeah.
Where does your life go from there?
Downhill very quickly.
Okay.
Yeah. More drugs and more drink and.
Right. Yep.
Just total head gone. Head totally gone. Yeah.
Yep. Were you feeling suicidal?
Oh, big style, yeah.
Yeah.
Big style.
Okay. And do you know, it's going to sound like a stupid question, but do you know why?
Why, what? Sorry.
Why you were feeling suicidal?
Well, obviously it was, drugs and drink, but I felt shame and guilt for leaving my kids and my house and I wanted to be with her, but I couldn't be with her because I was with another woman. I was with her. Didn't know what I wanted. It was like a dog going round and round chasing its tail.
Okay. So, when did the divorce take place? With Jennifer and that separation. What year would that have been around about?
That would have been around 2000, probably.
Okay.
And around that, yeah.
So we're coming up then. Let's fast forward to Liz, and you met a girl called Liz. Yeah.
Well, there was a 10-year relationship in between Liz and Jennifer.
But you weren't married?
No.
Okay.
And that was crazy.
So you met someone you didn't get married to?
Yeah.
Right, okay. We don't have time. So because the reason to bring up Liz is because you're currently married to Liz.
Yeah.
It's going to stay that way.
It's going to stay that way.
Amen. So how did you meet Liz? Where? When? How long ago?
I was on a blind date. She's a hairdresser, and she knew a friend of mine, and just got us together,
Yeah, and it went from there. How long ago was that?
8 years.
8 years.
Doing well, aren't I?
When did you get married? How many years ago did you get married?
6.
6 years ago?
Yeah.
Okay. So, let's say, the track record isn't great. The first few years with Liz, how did that go then?
I know she's watching online, Johnny. I have to watch what I'm saying here.
Turn it off.
I'll be an order force. Aye, it went very well. A honeymoon period for a couple of years.
Okay.
Probably 2-3 years.
Right.
Yeah.
But
I wasn't drinking for 7 years.
Right.
First,
and was that you're on AA?
I went to AA.
You went to AA.
Yeah.
And did that help?
AA was great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Got me off of drinking. Got me looking at myself.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yep. And did that help them with the relationship with Liz? Because the alcohol isn't on the table?
Yeah, but then I stopped going to AA and I started getting mad again.
Okay.
In my head without drink.
Right. So what's at that moment then that Spencer comes to the church?
Well, I started drinking again and I started doing all the stuff that I used to do.
Right.
And then I stopped drinking and I went mad. And then I didn't want to live anymore.
Yeah.
And Spencer, I don't know what he was thinking, but he got me up here.
Okay. Yep. So Spencer comes to church. If I'm right in saying it was the night of the machine gun preacher, and he gets saved that night, and he invites you to come along to church. Yeah. And so from that moment, we have a history of alcohol abuse, of drugs, broken relationships, which for me, whenever I think of those things, they are the result of what is actually going on with us. You know, the problem is not the alcohol or the drugs. The problem is what's underneath that is causing you to turn to the alcohol and the drugs. And that was probably the thing that was going on, you know, with you. And so we turned to the alcohol to numb the pain, to get away from stuff. And so over this last few years now, you've had a process of facing up to things and of learning from what you've been through. But God has obviously now been a main influence and a main factor in the change that has taken place in your life. Can you just take a couple of minutes just to expound on that?
Yeah, well, I feel the hole in the soul's filled.
Okay.
The hole in the soul. I'm not, the only thing I'm searching for now is more of Jesus Christ in my life.
Great. Amen.
The more I seek Him, the more I love Him, the more I love Him, the more I want Him.
Amen.
You know?
It's good. Yeah.
And when I talk about saved, you're saved from hell and you're going to heaven. But if somebody had told me that day, and that wouldn't have been enough, because I need to live in my own skin. I could never live in my own skin.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And the day I can.
Yep. You know. Brilliant. So you look back. I mean, obviously, there's maybe like still kind of struggling maybe with regrets and stuff like that there, but it's that understanding that God has forgiven us. Yeah. And set us free, even from the past and from the history and from things that maybe we have done. And so there's been a massive, massive difference. I didn't know you before you were saved. I didn't know the Robert that was into the drugs and the alcohol and that there. The Robert that was a mess and wanted to die. And God has intervened and has caused this amazing turnaround and change in your life. Last thing is there are maybe people in here tonight who are maybe even still in that, for them, that situation that you were in. Maybe you're here tonight and you're like at the end of your rope and you're thinking, I can't do this anymore. People here that aren't saved, I want to give you 30 seconds just to speak to them. What would you say to them?
Yeah, well, I would say Jesus says, come as you are, you know. And that gave me a big hoop to get through with all my baggage. And for anybody that thinks they're not good enough, well, there's nobody good enough. It's Jesus done the work, you know. It's Jesus died for us. Just come as you are, and he'll round you off. He'll do the finished product. And these two guys here, these pastors.
That was pastors, by the way, just so you know.
Johnny and Jack. What it says in the tin, you know, these two are two good guys, and there's a lot of good. there's a lot of good people up here, you know, that can nourish you and bring you back to life, you know.
Amen. Robert, thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thank you, mate.
Really appreciate it.